Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Wednesday, November 8th. It's day 33 since Hamas attacked southern Israel, and more than 1,000 people were killed. More than 200 people were taken hostage. I wanted to give you an update on some of the realities of the Israel-Hamas war since then. UNRWA, the UN Refugee Agency, reported that 92 UNRWA employees have been killed, and at least 26 have been injured since the start of hostilities. This is the highest number of UN aid workers killed in a conflict in the history of the United Nations. Since November 4th, Israel did open a humanitarian corridor within Gaza between the north and the south along the main north-south road in the Gaza Strip. It's open in the middle of the day from 10 to 2, and it's reported that 40,000 people, mostly walking, have traveled from the north to the south in past days. The number of people displaced in Gaza is now 1.5 million people, and that's out of the roughly 2.3 million people that live there. The death toll in Gaza is now it's now reported at 10,328 people, including 2,550 women and 4,237 children. The death toll in Israel is still roughly the same, 1,400 people. It's believed that there are 240 hostages still held in Gaza by Hamas or other militant groups. Netanyahu did make a comment that he would be open to the possibility of humanitarian pauses. Churches for Middle East Peace and other groups are opposed to humanitarian pauses and are calling for a complete ceasefire. The idea is, why have a humanitarian pause in the fighting? You would give people food and water and then just bomb them. And so we're calling for a complete ceasefire. But Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, said that he would consider the possibility of a humanitarian pause. This seems to indicate that he's listening to the world, decrying the realities of what's happening in Gaza. But after his remarks, it's reported that there was an overwhelming outcry in Israel against that idea. And it's believed that part of the idea is that a ceasefire, historically, when Israel and Hamas have had escalations or wars, a ceasefire has meant an end to the fighting. And so in Israel, it's understood that a ceasefire would mean surrendering to Hamas. And I think it's really important to understand that's not what a ceasefire means. A ceasefire means an end to bombs dropped and rockets being fired, but that there is a lot of room for the negotiation of the release of hostages. There's a lot of room for alternative means to be pursued. It just means that the bombing would be brought to an end. It's also important to note that the goal that Israel has of eradicating Hamas, even if it happens in terms of Hamas leaders all being killed, unless the concerns that have been raised by Hamas and other militant groups are addressed, the blockade in Gaza, the decades-long military control of the West Bank, unless those core issues are addressed, alternative militant groups will rise up. And so the goal of eradicating Hamas is a farce. And will not be achieved unless, the concerns that they're raising, are addressed. And that in no way justifies their brutality against civilians, which absolutely should be condemned. There also has been a conversation, Netanyahu made comments this week about Israel, for an indefinite period of time, will have the overall security responsibility for the Gaza Strip, which absolutely contradicts what the United States and other foreign countries have communicated. The expectations of the US and others is that Gaza will not be reoccupied by Israel after the war. And so this was brought up in a State Department briefing on Tuesday, November 7th. Today is Wednesday, November 8th. And when the State Department was asked about this, their response was that the Prime Minister's office should speak to that question. But the viewpoint of the US is that the Palestinians must be on the forefront of decisions about their future, that Gaza is Palestinian land and will remain Palestinian land. And generally speaking, the US does not support the reoccupation of Gaza. They also said neither does Israel. Secretary Blinken was fairly clear about that when he was in the region this past weekend. I also wanted to let you know there was an assassination attempt reported on social media and in international news sources that there was an assassination attempt on President Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority. This was not reported, as far as I could tell, at least when I was looking last night in Western media sources. A group called the Children of Abu Jandal claimed responsibility for a purported attack on Abbas's convoy after giving him a 24-hour ultimatum to take action against Israel. This weekend, Abbas met with the U.S. Secretary of State Blinken, and it's believed that this militant group was upset because the U.S., of course, is so supportive of Israel, and that Abbas's meeting with the U.S. Was making him complicit. And so Turkey's Hurriyet newspaper reported about this. The PA, the Palestinian Authority, denied that there was an attempt on his life, but online reports indicate that a bodyguard was killed during the attack. The PA does say that the president was involved in an unrelated shooting incident. The last thing I just wanted to mention was that there have been 40 attacks since October 7th on U.S. or Western presences in the Middle East. This was brought up again in the November 7th State Department briefing. And one of the reporters asked if it was a trend that the United States and Americans have become less safe around the world because of the U.S.'s support of Israel. And the State Department spokesperson responded and said that they do not see that there is a trend. Even though the State Department website has increased the security numbers, they evaluate each country on the safety of travel for American citizens. And a number of countries, particularly throughout the Middle East, have been increased. The risk level has increased for American citizens. So that is a bit of an update. We would invite you. Tomorrow is Thursday. We'll be doing a briefing tomorrow. We had a lovely time of prayer this morning. We are praying desperately and working toward a ceasefire. We are going to start next week, or on the 20th, Monday the 20th, we are going to start every Monday, starting on the 20th, we're going to start having opportunities to talk about congressional engagement. And so we are going to start really, really putting pressure on our members of Congress. We're already doing it. We're already in touch with the White House and the State Department and U.S. officials almost daily, if not daily, about numerous issues. But we really want to put pressure on the U.S. government to support a complete ceasefire, to bring bombing to an end, to bring the hostages home, to call for a just peace and for the core causes of conflict to be addressed. So thank you for your prayers, and let's continue to work together toward peace.